Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. CIA Director William Casey is out. Still in the hospital today, still unavailable to give testimony. Casey has resigned. Deputy CIA Chief Robert Gates has been named to succeed Casey. This switchover still leaves unanswered many questions about the CIA's role in the whole weapons for Iran deal, what Casey knows about it, what Robert Gates knows. Bill Plant begins our coverage of the CIA in transition and under fire.
CIA Director William Casey's resignation ended weeks of speculation following surgery to remove a brain tumor. President Reagan nominated Deputy Director Robert Gates, a career intelligence officer, as Casey's replacement.
He will help bridge the gap, and there was a tremendous gap between Congress and Director Casey.
Attorney General Meese and Chief of Staff Regan met with Casey in his hospital room last Thursday. White House officials say Casey indicated it was his decision to leave, but that the administration was relieved. A hospital statement says Casey is alert, but medical sources tell CBS News he has great difficulty speaking and is unlikely ever to be able to testify again on the Iran-Contra controversy. The agency he leaves behind also faces problems.
Their credibility certainly has been damaged to the extent that there are many people on the Hill who no longer feel willing to give them the benefit of the doubt at first blush and are going to question everything they say.
The man who will try to change that, Gates, is at 43, a 20-year veteran of the CIA and National Security Council, and would be the agency's youngest director ever. White House officials said Gates was chosen over a political appointee in an effort to bring continuity to the agency at a difficult time. In his confirmation hearings, Gates will face senators who question his own role in the Iran-Contra affair.
And I think it will now have to review Gates and his testimony as well as his background.
The CIA prospered under Casey. It was able, because of his close friendship with the president, to get the money it needed to rebuild after the house cleaning of the 70s. Now it faces questions about its role in the Iran-Contra scandal, and the White House hopes that Gates will be able to keep the agency on an even keel. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Robert Gates is taking over an agency which congressional investigators suspect knows more than it's willing to admit about the diversion of profits from the Iran arms sales to the Contras. The CIA says it did not know, was not involved. But one CIA officer, the agency's head man in Costa Rica, relayed messages from Oliver North to the organizers of the airlift to the Contras.
There was at least one member of the CIA helping Colonel North in what appears to be illegal activity dealing with the Contras. I think Mr. Gates should be asked a very basic question. Did he know that the CIA was involved in illegally helping Colonel North? And if he did, when did he know about it?
Beginning in 1982, Gates was the agency's senior intelligence analyst, and for the past year, he served as William Casey's deputy. He was deeply involved in both monitoring the fortunes of the Contras and selling arms to Iran.
There's a door that interconnects their two offices. In my time, that door was constantly flying open in one direction or the other, and there was very little, if anything, that I didn't share fully with my deputy.
Gates has told Congress it was not until last October when the CIA put together the evidence that funds were being diverted to the Contras. Even then, Gates didn't breathe a word to Congress.
And by his own admission, he knew in October that there was a serious question about illegal diversion of funds to the Contras, and yet he did not come to our committee and tell us.
The CIA had been ordered by President Reagan not to tell Congress about the Iran arms deal. Before Congress confirms Gates as the new director, members will want to know what he would do the next time the president orders the CIA to keep an operation secret from them. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
President Reagan had his spokesman change positions today about whether investigators will have access to the president's own personal notes about sending arms to the Ayatollah. Capitol Hill correspondent Phil Jones reports Congress does want them.
To avoid a bruising confrontation with Congress, President Reagan agreed late today to make available relevant excerpts from his personal notes that might relate to the Iran-Contra investigation. The day began with presidential spokesman Marlin Fitzwater saying the notes are very personal and there is concern about invasion of the president's privacy and other people's privacy. That started a political storm at the Capitol.
President Reagan has said over and over and over again that he wants all the facts made public. If those words were sincere, if he meant what he said, then it seems to me these documents should be made available.
At issue were the personal notes, or impressions as the White House called them, that the president makes occasionally in the residence after his meetings. The president said his decision to release the relevant notes was consistent with his commitment to cooperate fully, to get to the bottom of the matter and fix what went wrong.
I think that he might well have made an argument that personal notes aren't personal notes, and they weren't coming up here. I give him credit for turning them over.
The president's spokesman said today that the White House will negotiate with the congressional committees and independent counsel as to what specific notes will be released. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The New York Times reported today that a huge secret arms for Iran deal was allowed by the Reagan administration to go ahead in the period 1983 through 85. This deal involved dozens of jet fighter aircraft. International arms dealers reportedly arranged for the U.S. weapons on the international market. The U.S. Defense Department, the Times reports, knew of this planes for Iran deal, but made no effort to stop it. Muslim extremists holding 3 Americans and an Indian-born teacher in Lebanon said today that they had moved the hostages out of Beirut to what are called safe places. This was in response to a U.S. military buildup continuing in the eastern Mediterranean. They also made a new threat to kill the 4 hostages unless Israel releases 400 Arab prisoners within a week. And that was not the only threat against Americans in Lebanon. Doug Tennell reports.
Along with a new picture of American hostage Terry Anderson, a new threat today from Islamic Jihad. Any American military strike in Lebanon, the communique warned, and the group will eliminate its hostages. It is the same group that Terry Waite set out to meet 12 days ago. And in Damascus today, yet more evidence that hostage negotiator Waite is now a hostage himself.
He is kidnapped now.
Whatever the real intent of the American fleet, the movement of American battleships both off the coast of Lebanon and into the Persian Gulf has turned up the temperature here almost to the boiling point. There is a rumor of an imminent U.S. military attack.
I think it is serious, but I advise the Americans don't do it.
What will happen to the hostages if they do a military action?
I think it is the quickly way to kill everyone.
Another group of kidnappers holding Americans Robert Polhill, Jesse Turner, and Alan Steen have also warned recently against any American military strike. Along with growing fears for their safety, there is also growing despair.
I could never leave my husband here in Lebanon. I'm not going anywhere.
And in Tehran, another American is now being held captive. Newsman Gerald Saib was one of about 50 reporters invited to Iran for a recent tour of the front. But his apparent arrest in Tehran on Saturday prompted a round of emergency meetings in Washington today.
He has not been seized by some mysterious, elusive band of terrorists, but by the government of Iran.
I believe we have good premonitions as far as this being resolved. Our only concern is how Jerry is being treated.
The Iranian news agency has reported that an Israeli spy who entered Iran on a false passport disguised as a journalist has been arrested. It is almost as if all across the Middle East now, Western diplomats are waiting for word on Westerners in trouble. There is one common thread. It runs from an increased American military presence in the region to Iran and the new threats against at least 9 Americans who are being held against their will. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Damascus.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, the Justice Department proposes even more changes in the way you get or don't get telephone services, and Australia feels the America's Cup slipping away.